A hunter does not lay the same trap for a wolf as he does for a fox. He does not set bait where no one will take it. He knows his prey thoroughly and he hunts accordingly. Hello best learners, this is Mustafa here at Learn with the Best, and we've got a great video for you today. We're going to be going over Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, Law number 19. Know who you are dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person. This law is so important, in fact, that I am declaring it as one of the top 5 most important laws of power. First, I'm going to define this law for you, and then we'll go over the 5 dangerous types of people that we should all be avoiding. We're going to go over a few examples, and finally we'll finish with how you can implement this law into your own life for obtaining maximum power. This is going to be a longer video than usual, so please sit back, relax, enjoy, and most importantly, smash that thumbs up button below. Just kidding, but really do that, please. Here's the law. There are many different kinds of people in the world, and you can never assume that everyone will react to your strategies in the same way. Deceive or outmaneuver certain kinds of people, and they will spend the rest of their lives seeking revenge. They are wolves in lamb's clothing. Choose your victims and opponents carefully, and never offend or deceive the wrong person. When you meet a swordsman, draw your sword. Do not recite poetry to someone who is not a poet. The proud, arrogant man. Although he may initially disguise it, this man's touchy pride makes him very dangerous. Any perceived slight will lead to a vengeance of overwhelming violence. You may say to yourself, "But I only said so-and-so at a party where everyone was drunk and blah 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 blah." It does not matter. There is no sanity behind this person's overreaction, so do not waste your time trying to figure him out. If you sense at any point in your interaction that this person is an oversensitive type with an overwhelming pride, then what you need to do is run. Get away from that person as fast as you can. Whatever you want from this person is not worth it. Next is the hopelessly insecure man. This man is related to the proud and arrogant type, but is less violent and harder to spot. His ego is fragile and he has a sense of insecurity. If he feels deceived or attacked, he will simmer. He will attack you in bites that will take forever to get big enough for you to notice. If you find you have deceived or harmed such a person, then again, what you gotta do is run. Do not stay around him or he will nibble you to death. Mr. Suspicious. This person sees what he wants to see, which is usually the worst in people. He imagines that everyone is out to get him. He's genuinely unbalanced, and he's also going to be super easy to deceive. So play on his suspicious nature to get him to turn against other people. But if you do become the target of his suspicions, then beware and run. Now we have the serpent with a long memory. If this person is hurt or deceived, then he will show no anger on the surface. Instead, he will calculate and wait. Then, when he is in a position to turn the tables, he will exact a revenge marked by a cold-blooded shrewdness. Recognize this man by his calculation and cunning in all of the different areas of his life. He is usually cold and unaffectionate. Be extremely careful of the snake, and if you have somehow injured him, then either crush him completely or get him out of your sight. This is the most dangerous of all of the types. And then finally, we have the plain, unassuming, and often unintelligent man. Your ears prick up when you find such a tempting victim. But what often seems too good to be true is indeed often too good to be true. This type of a man is a lot harder to deceive than you may imagine. Being deceived often takes intelligence and imagination, a sense of the possible rewards. But the unassuming man will not take the bait because he does not recognize it. He is simply, completely unaware. The danger with this type of a man is not that he will harm you or seek revenge, but that he will merely waste your time, energy, resources, and even your sanity in trying to deceive him. Have a test ready for this type, a joke or a story. If his reaction is utterly literal, then move on. Okay, so once upon a time, in the early part of the 13th century, Muhammad, the Shah of Kuwar, managed after many wars to forge a large empire, extending west to present-day Turkey and south to present-day Afghanistan. The empire's center was the great Asian capital of Samarkand. The Shah had a powerful and well-trained army that could mobilize 200,000 warriors within days. In the year 1219, Muhammad received a group of diplomatic missionaries from a new tribal leader to the east, Genghis Khan. The group brought all sorts of gifts to the great Muhammad, representing the finest goods from Khan's small but growing Mongol empire. Genghis Khan wanted to reopen the Silk Route to Europe, and he offered to share it with Muhammad while promising peace between the two empires. Muhammad did not know this upstart from the east, who it seemed to him was extremely arrogant in his attempt to try to talk as an equal to the great Muhammad, because Muhammad believed himself to be a clear superior to the otherworldly Genghis Khan. So Muhammad ignored Khan's offer, and Genghis Khan tried again. This time he sent a caravan of 100 camels filled with the rarest articles he had plundered from China. Before the caravan reached Muhammad, however, Inalchik, who was one of Muhammad's governors in a region bordering the capital, seized the caravan for himself and executed its leaders. Genghis Khan was sure that this was a mistake, that Inalchik had acted without Muhammad's approval, so he sent yet another mission to Muhammad, reiterating his offer and asking that the governor be punished. This time, however, Muhammad himself had one of the ambassadors beheaded and sent the other two back with shaved heads. This was a horrifying insult to the Mongol code of honor. Genghis Khan sent a message to the Shah. "You have chosen war. What will happen next will happen, and what is to be, we do not know. Only God knows." Genghis Khan mobilized his forces, and in the year 1220, he attacked Inalchik's province. He captured the governor and ordered him executed by having molten silver poured into his eyes and ears. Over the next year, Genghis Khan led a series of guerrilla-like campaigns against Muhammad's much larger army. His method was totally novel for the time. His soldiers could move fast on horseback and had mastered the art of firing with bow and arrow while mounted. The speed and flexibility of his forces allowed him to deceive Muhammad as to his intentions and the directions of his movements. Eventually, he managed first to surround Samarkand and then to seize it. Muhammad fled, and a few years later, he died. His vast empire was broken and destroyed. Genghis Khan was the sole master of Samarkand, the Silk Route, and most of northern Asia. So, what do we learn from this story? Never assume that the person you are dealing with is weaker and less important than you. Some men are slow to take offense, which may make you misjudge the thickness of their skin and fail to worry about insulting them. But should you offend their honor and pride, they will overwhelm you with a violence that seems sudden and extreme. If you want to turn people down, it's best to do so politely and respectfully, even if you feel their request is impudent or their offer is ridiculous. Never reject them with an insult until you know who they are. You may be dealing with a Genghis Khan. Now let's look at another few stories. But before we do that, I want to shamelessly plug my course into the middle of this video, because that's what you're supposed to do as a YouTuber. If you want to transform yourself from a lamb to a lion, then check out my course pinned in the top comment below. I will teach you the importance of time and how you can manage your time in order to achieve your dreams and your life purpose. Let's be honest here, the majority of the population are sheep, taking part in the 9-to-5 rat race of life, not enjoying their work and never fulfilling or even finding their life purpose. You know, you go to work, you come home, you eat a pizza, you watch the newest TV show, and day by day, month by month, decade by decade, your life passes you by, and you have never really achieved your dreams. So let me be your sensei. I will give you the tools that you need for success, but keep in mind, this is not a magic pill, and it will require hard work on your part. You have to follow what I teach, and you have to put in the work on yourself on a daily basis. So if you're interested, then again, check out my course pinned in the top comment below. Okay, let's get back into it. So once upon a time, in the late 1910s, some of the best swindlers in America formed a con artist ring, and in the winter months, they would spread across the southern states, targeting people that they assumed to be fools. In 1920, Joe Fury, leader of this ring, was working his way through Texas, making hundreds of thousands of dollars with classic con games. In Fort Worth, Texas, he met a sucker named Frank Norfleet, a cattleman who owned a large ranch. Norfleet fell for the con. Convinced of the riches to come, he emptied his bank account of $45,000 and handed it over to Fury and his men. A few days later, they gave him his millions, which turned out to be a few good dollars wrapped around a packet of newspaper clippings. Fury and his men had constructed these types of cons many times before, and the fool was usually so embarrassed by his gullibility that he would quietly learn his lesson and accept the loss. But not Mr. Norfleet. No, Mr. Norfleet was not going to take his embarrassment lightly. He went to the police, who told him that there was nothing that they could do about the con. "Well then, I'll go after those people myself," he told the detectives. "I'll get them if it takes me the rest of my life." Norfleet's wife took over the ranch as he scoured the country looking for others who had been conned in the same game. One such fool came forward, and the two men identified one of the con men in San Francisco and managed to get him locked up. The con man committed suicide instead of facing a long prison sentence. Norfleet kept going. He tracked down another of the con men in Montana. He roped him like a calf and dragged him through the muddy streets to the town jail. He traveled not only across the country, but to England, Canada, and Mexico in search of Joe Fury and his right-hand man, W.B. Spencer. Finding Spencer in Montreal, Norfleet chased him through the streets. Preferring the mercy of the law to Norfleet's wrath, Spencer turned himself in. And then finally, Norfleet found Fury, the leader of the group, in Jacksonville, Florida, and he personally hauled him off to face justice back home in Texas. After 5 years of hunting, Norfleet had single-handedly destroyed the country's largest ring of conmen. The adventure bankrupted him and ruined his marriage, but he died a satisfied man with a gigantic smile on his face. Alright, so let's interpret this. You know, most men would accept the humiliation of being conned with a sense of resignation. They learn their lesson. They recognize that there is no such thing as a free lunch, and that they have usually been brought down by their own greed for easy money. Some people, however, refuse to take their medicine quietly. Instead of reflecting on their own gullibility and greed, they see themselves as completely innocent victims. Men like this may seem to be crusaders for justice and honesty, but they are actually pretty insecure. Being fooled has activated their self-doubt, and they are desperate to repair the damage. Was it really worth it for this man to ruin his marriage and bankrupt himself while spending a huge chunk of his life on this pursuit? Well, to him and to other men like him, the answer is yes. They will go to the ends of the earth to overcome their embarrassment. All people have insecurities, and often the best way to deceive a sucker is to play upon those insecurities. But in the realm of power, everything is a question of degree, and the person who is more insecure than the average person presents great dangers. To see if you are dealing with such a type, test them first. Make a mild joke at their expense. A confident person will laugh, but an insecure person will react as if personally insulted. If you suspect that you are dealing with this type of a man, then run away. Far, far away. Always know who you are dealing with, and do not offend the wrong person. Alright, on to the next story here. Once upon a time, in 5th century BC, a man named Cho, who was a prince of China, had been forced into exile. He lived in poverty, waiting for the moment he could return home and resume his princely life. Once he was passing through the state of Cheng, where the ruler, not knowing who he was, treated him very rudely. The ruler's minister saw this and said, "This man is a worthy prince. May your highness treat him with great courtesy." But the ruler, able to see only the prince's lowly station, ignored this advice and insulted the prince again. The minister again warned his master, "If your highness cannot treat the prince with respect, then you should put him to death in order to avoid calamity in the future." The ruler only scoffed. Then years later, the prince was able to finally return home. His circumstances greatly improved. He did not forget who had been kind to him and who had been insolent during his years of poverty. At his first opportunity, he assembled a vast army and marched on Cheng, taking 8 cities, destroying the kingdom, and sending the ruler into an exile of his own. You can never be sure of who you are dealing with. A man who is of little importance today can be a person of great power tomorrow. We forget a lot in our lives, but we rarely forget an insult. How was the ruler of Cheng to know that Prince Cho was an ambitious, calculating, and cunning type, a serpent with a long memory? There was really no way for Cheng to know, but since there was no way, it would have been better not to tempt the fates by finding out. There's nothing to be gained by insulting a person unnecessarily. Swallow the impulse to offend, even if the other person seems weak. The satisfaction is meager compared to the danger that someday he or she will be in a position to hurt you. Know who you are dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person. Alright, now on to our last story here. Once upon a time, in the year 1920, it had been a particularly bad time for American art dealers. So bad, in fact, that 5 of the largest art dealers decided to pool their resources and target the wealthiest individual in America, Mr. Henry Ford. The dealers assembled a list of the 100 greatest paintings in the world, all of which they happened to have in stock. They spent weeks producing a 3-volume set of books containing magnificent reproductions of these paintings. They sat down with Mr. Ford and told him that with one purchase, he could have in his possession all 100 of the greatest paintings in the world. To which Mr. Ford replied, "Gentlemen, what would I want with the original paintings when the ones right here in these books are so beautiful?" When it came to paintings, Henry Ford was the unassuming, plain type of a man who just isn't worth targeting. He was the incarnation of those literal-minded folk who do not possess enough imagination to be deceived. These 5 art dealers should have done their homework and studied the man. They should have known exactly who they were dealing with before even attempting to take their first step. This blunder cost them months of hard work and preparation. So the keys to power. The ability to measure people and to know exactly who you're dealing with is the most important skill of all in gathering and conserving power. Without it, you are blind. Not only will you offend the wrong people, but you will also choose the wrong types of people to work on. It's good to rely on your instincts when it comes to most things in life. Your 6th sense, if you will. However, when it comes to this law, it's better to gather concrete knowledge. Study and spy for as long as it takes to get the concrete knowledge that you need. It will definitely pay off in the long run. The final word of caution here is to never trust appearances. Anyone with a serpent's heart can use a show of kindness to cloak it. Learn to see through appearances and never trust the version that people show of themselves. Remember, a hunter does not lay the same trap for a wolf as he does for a fox. He does not set bait where no one will take it. He knows his prey thoroughly and hunts accordingly. If you like my YouTube content and you want to support me and the creation of even more content, then please check out my Patreon link pinned in the top comment below. I upload new videos every Friday for my Patreon subscribers that go deeper into my life regarding the 48 laws. These videos are a bit more raw and untamed than my usual videos here on YouTube. And if you're a patron of mine already, then I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because it's people like you that truly make all of this even possible in the first place. Please don't forget to simply subscribe, smash that thumbs up button, and make sure you hit that bell icon so YouTube can let you know exactly when a new video is posted. I hope you enjoyed this animated video on Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. Law number 19. Know who you're dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person. And remember, you only retain about 10% of what you learned the first time around. So watch this video through a few times and then come back to it again and again in order to really understand and ingrain all of the material into your mind. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.